Burke's the butcher, Hare's the thief, Knox is the man who buys the beef. Tonight, Polygon's Jenna Stoeber joins us to talk about the infamous William Burke and William Hare, a morbid and darkly funny true story of science, greed, and murder. Broadcasting from somewhere beneath the New York Public Library, it's Brian and Eric Don't Belong Here. Stay with us. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Brian and Eric Don't Belong Here, a weekly exploration of the strange, paranormal, and macabre by two scaredy boys. I'm Brian, here as always with my butchering, thieving, beef-buying colleague, Eric. How are you, man?
I really wanted to learn more about this guy who buys the beef. I feel like that's a good job. I really resonated with that.
Eric, I'm so excited to tell you every part of the beef buying
The
process.
whole beef purchasing scenario, are there import tariffs? What's going on? Are you buying it by the side or what?
We will get into it. But before we do that, we have a guest. Amazing. You know her from Polygon.com, her Twitch channel, and the Burnt Cookbook Party podcast. One of my favorite people in the world.
Whoa.
Jenna Stoeber's here.
Oh, you
Hi,
sweetheart. Hey.
How are
hey.
you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to talk about Burke and Hare. Legitimately so stoked.
Okay. So before we even get into the weeds on it, I only learned about this a couple of years ago on the podcast Lore.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you all have heard of that.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
I heard about it there. I had never heard of it before that, and I was like amazed by it. I'm like, this story's incredible. People should hear this. And then it turned out, it's like super famous.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people know this story. That said, so Eric, you've never heard it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'll just establish I'm an idiot. I'm not one of them. I don't know what this is. I thought it was like a fun. We can't cover Candyland on the show. Right, this is a spooky podcast. Very serious. Burke and Hare.
It does sound like an upscale grocery, right?
That's right. Yeah,
In,
exactly.
like,
Yeah.
East Village. Yeah.
I think that's going to make a fun dynamic because, Jenna, you told me you've been familiar with this since you were a kid.
Yes.
And that both explains a lot about everything I know about you as a human being, but also, hey, what?
I think like a lot of people, especially like high school goths, I went through a period where I was super interested in serial killers, which
Sure,
Burke and Hare, I think you could argue either way. We'll get to that. But it was spurned by this. My sister once told me that she thought it was likely that I would go mad and kill the rest of the family with an axe. Why
cool.
did she say that? I don't know. I'll
That's some
never know.
delightful
It's cool to
family
be that
banter.
one in the family dynamic. There's the clown, the leader, the ticking time bomb.
Yeah. So I don't know what the deal with that was, but it really spurned me to be like, like Lizzie Borden. Okay, well, I guess serial killers are my thing. I mean, because when you're a kid and somebody tells you something about yourself, you latch onto that. You're like, okay, what does this mean about me? It's not great.
Is there a universe where that had never been said and you're just an accountant somewhere?
Oh, I hope not. I would hate to think that is my alternate reality.
That's like an interesting version of the trolley problem.
See, I think the thing is, I probably did something that spurned that. Like, I was probably already spooky in some way.
Were you ticking any of the boxes of the McDonald triad?
What's the McDonald triad?
You guys don't know the McDonald triad? This is
What are you
actually,
talking
I
about?
only learned of this because of a very funny bit from our mutual friend Eli Uden. And he has I'm not going to spoil the whole bit in his show, but the McDonald triad are the three sort of like checklist criteria
this is like,
for children who will become serial killers.
This is like wets the bed, hurts animals.
and starts fires.
That is a very good bit, and I don't want to spoil the
Yeah,
bit.
it's a great bit.
I do just want to tell somebody else's joke.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just steal it on the pod.
Have Eli on and make him do this bit.
There you go.
We'll have him record it and play that bit every time we discuss the McDonald triad.
There you go. Hell yeah.
If you're asking whether I wet the bed at this point, the answer is no.
I
All right.
still do, and I've
whether-
never killed a single person. So I think
You're
it's kind of the
asking
whole
whether I
thing. We could
like
throw it out. It
fire.
doesn't replicate. It's bullshit.
The answer is yes, I liked fire.
Yeah, me too.
That one's a fair cop. I didn't hurt animals. I did once bring her a dead bird because it had flown into the windows outside our house. We had a lot of cats growing up. This bird had flown into the window, and in hindsight, it was dead. I was a child and I didn't know it was dead, but I went out, I got a plastic bag, and I was like, I told my sister, like, there's a bird. We need to help this bird, or it's going to get eaten by the cats. And she was like, nah. And I was like, okay, I disagree. So I went and got a plastic bag and scooped the bird up and took it inside and took it to her door and knocked on the door of her room. And I was like, what do we do about this? And she freaked out.
I do love this tiny spooky child with a dead bird. She's like, well, what now?
Yeah.
I don't think I knew it was dead. I think it was probably dead though. I was worried the cats were gonna kill it or do something bad to it. I don't know what she did with it.
Big question mark.
I probably just threw it away. Anyway, so I was super into the long and short of it is I was super into serial killers, and Burke Hare was one of them because I think it's a pretty interesting story, as you'll hear.
I think it's a phenomenally interesting story. That's it. Before we get into it proper, Jenna, real fast, you do some fun stuff on the internet, and anyone listening to this probably knows that. But just in case, can you tell us about the Burnt Cookbook Party podcast? You told me about it shortly before it came out, and it's very exciting.
Oh, it's so good. So it's a Pathfinder actual play podcast. To my knowledge, the only
everyone stopped playing that. That one's done.
That's such a cruel burn because it's so accurate. All of my friends back home in Southern Illinois, that's all we play. And nobody else still plays Pathfinder, but we really love it. So it's Pathfinder. It's weirdly cooking heavy. It was named that because of that, but it has also become a self-fulfilling prophecy. But the story is we're a bunch of students who are welcomed into this kind of college age academy because we're all have done some great act of heroism. But as soon as we are entered, we are thrust into a war. And we learn really quickly that we are probably in a time loop.
Ooh.
That time loop hasn't looped yet in the story thus far. But there's a lot of evidence to suggest that we are. And so we're just trying to figure out what the fuck we even do about that.
Hell yeah. If you're into actual play, D&D, or in this case, Pathfinder podcast, definitely check that out ASAP. It's great.
It is a comedy. If you like comedies,
there you go.
Comedy podcast, that's what you want.
But if you like drama, if you like being sad, if you like horror, no, don't go near it. Do not subscribe.
Already here.
Do not rate. Don't review.
Don't even touch. Yeah, don't touch.
Don't touch it. Hey, weird question, guys. How would either of you feel about the concept of donating your bodies to science? I have a sign-up sheet right here, as you can see.
I've already been rejected from multiple institutions. I try every week. I send something. I do a lot of cold calling and just literally nothing. They don't even see me. They just hear my voice and they're like, "You seem like you know what? We're full, actually, not a fit. I don't think."
You've called the psychologist.
Yeah.
You've called the lepidopterist.
Stop sending us your resume.
Jenna, any thoughts on the concept?
Oh, I'm pro.
Yeah.
Once I'm dead, I don't believe in an afterlife. So once I'm dead, this flesh sack that I currently inhabit as a form of basically electrical impulses connecting all of my nerves and feeling sensations in a feedback loop to my brain. That's all gone. The meat is fine. Do whatever you want with it. I just don't kill me in order to get to my meat.
I think that's a pretty reasonable request. I think I'm kind of in the same boat. I don't know if my wife would let me donate to science as a bit, but
it would be cool if you could become a cool Frankenstein monster. You know what I mean?
that would be the dream.
There we go.
You know, just run some electricity through me, make me disgusting, and walk around.
That's actually specifically the science I would like to donate to. That said, I don't have something for that. But if either of you were interested in donating your body, Eric, another place to try.
Okay, thank you.
Jenna,
I'll put it
maybe
on
a
the
first
list.
place to try. I found this at Atlas Obscura, the William M. Bass Forensic Anthropology Center in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Who papa?
Jenna's making a face of like knows what this is.
I read that exact Atlas Obscura article.
It's
about how they use it to track decomposition stages.
So this caught my eye in the book because my brother lives in Knoxville, and it's part of the University of Tennessee, and it is colloquially I can never say it. Colloquially,
I think it's called Kalakalaloo.
Kalakalaloo.
Yeah.
It's pronounced cloaca.
Yeah. You win. That's
It
great.
is referred to as the body farm.
Sweet.
So Atlas Obscura describes it as a 2.5 acre of land surrounded by a razor wire fence. This site has helped forensic scientists and researchers learn about human decomposition.
Wow.
It was started in 1981 with just a single dead body in a cage. And by
Sorry, that's
Now
great.
that's a party. Just
If you have a single dead body in a cage, that's the only lie you can tell to get out of that awkward encounter. When somebody opens the wrong door to the bathroom.
Hey, whoa! I can explain.
It's the first seat of my body farm. Yeah.
Welcome to my anthropological center. We're still looking for funding. So by 2007, it has grown to over 150 cadavers just sitting in a yard, decomposing.
Wait, they're in a yard? They're outside?
They're outside.
Whoa. Jesus.
Most of these cadavers are volunteers. Over 100 bodies are donated to the center a year. More directly from Atlas Obscura, these specimens are exposed to a wide range of scenarios to better understand how the conditions affect decomposition. Any number of factors can influence the process, such as how long a body has been outside, how exposed it is to air or water, or whether or not it is clothed. Bass's work has revolutionized the field of forensic anthropology. Since its founding, other facilities have opened up at schools around the United States and in several other countries. I did a little research trying to figure out if William M. Bass himself donated his body to his body farm, which you have to do, right?
The captain goes down with the ship.
If your name is on a body farm, you have to donate your body to that body farm. Do you?
I mean, it raises questions if you don't, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay, where would you guys place yourselves on the do you think he did or not final answer?
Definitely not. 0%.
Definitely. I also do not think he did, but I think it's bullshit that he didn't.
He's still alive at 93 years old.
Oh, you
Just won't die.
Oh, damn.
He knows he has to, and he really doesn't want to, and that is what is keeping him clinging to this mortal coil. I don't want to end up in that goddamn yard.
He can't be exposed as a hypocrite, so he's just not going to die.
Just don't die.
In defiance of God. I wanted to bring up the body farm and all the work that's done there because we haven't always been so cavalier or forthcoming about the idea of like studying the human body after we die. I think it's an interesting comparison to...
Oh, I thought you meant me and you personally. We never talk about how much we study corpses on this show.
Eric, we have done 40-something episodes of this podcast.
Hasn't come up one time.
Come up one time. Eric, we're changing that today.
So strange.
No, I mean, as a species, over the course of human history, we've found the subject pretty taboo.
Yeah.
Which brings us to Edinburgh, Scotland, in the 1800s. So I've never been to Edinburgh, but if you Google search pictures of it from the Victorian era, it looks basically how you're imagining First Draft. Don't alter it. It's like, there's a foreboding castle on a hillside. There's old churches, winding, narrow cobblestone streets, plenty of shadowy and fog-swept corners for like a Jack the Ripper type to be hiding just out of sight. Edinburgh at the time was also one of the leading places in Europe on anatomical study. But unfortunately, there was an increasing demand for actual, bodies to hack into and study.
Huh.
Like I mentioned, this study was pretty taboo and not something decent God-fearing people could possibly be subjected to.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Please do.
What's the minimum amount that you need to be paid to rob a grave?
That's
Well, if any, here's the thing: is I think digging a grave is actually pretty hard work. I'm pretty physically fit. I don't think I could just dig up a grave on my own. So
I think you might be underestimating
even a money issue.
What's that?
It's barely even a money issue. It's I don't know if there's an amount of money that could make me physically able to grave rob.
What if you could? What if you had the physical capacity? No issue.
I don't know. I just am so uninterested in grave robbing. It's hard for me to pin.
Fair point.
So, okay, let's... I do think you bring up a good... Sorry about that. I do think you bring up a pretty good point, though, of... so there's a cemetery not that far from us, Eric. We did an episode.
We walked in it, yeah.
And do you think the three of us together could, within an hour, certainly not within an hour, walk back here with a dead body from the graveyard?
Yeah.
Absolutely. No.
For sure.
Absolutely not.
What if we got into a...
When was the last time you did any physical labor?
Other than Jenna, I don't need to be called out like that.
I got locked out of my house the other day and waited in the elements for 20 minutes at least.
I feel like we could get into one of the mausoleums. That still counts.
Yeah.
That still counts.
We'll get a body.
Okay. Yeah, it might not be all three of us returning. We could get a body.
Listen, our body farm has to start somewhere, and if one of us has to sacrifice ourselves to do it, the only cadavers that could be legally studied were criminals who died in prison, orphans, and those who had committed suicide.
Wow.
Yeah, right.
Rough on orphans, huh?
Pretty right. Yeah, it's orphans, fine. Yeah,
exactly. Okay.
Nobody's gonna miss them.
Yeah.
So that bit probably led to the rise in grave robbing. Exactly to your point. I don't have all the specifics here. But there, my very 30,000 feet idiot understanding is that there was a little bit of finders keepers, and so you could only study prisoners, orphans, but if somebody showed up and was yo, here's a body, and you didn't ask any questions, you can be yeah, I don't know.
I feel like it's a modern day chop shop. You roll up with a car, they're gonna use the parts. They're not gonna ask for the title,
literally
right?
Chopping.
Yeah.
Yeah. Only it's the body. Yeah. It's not a car body.
It's a body.
It's a people's body.
Yeah.
So these they were called resurrection men, which is hilarious.
Pretty cool. Dope. Actually pretty cool.
Super metal name.
So they would head into the churchyards, dig up dead bodies, and then sell them to the university in Edinburgh. And you asked how much they got paid, and it was a pretty lucrative endeavor. In today's money, about $600
per body.
That's
pretty good,
which is
they feel like a lot to you. I don't know. I guess if I were fucking pissant broke.
Yeah, right.
Well, think about this. You're doing a body a night. You don't work weekends. You're talking $3,000 a week. You're talking $12,000 a month. I'll take you. You're earning a 6-figure salary.
Wow. Man,
that's
pretty good.
So many bodies. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I guess you're getting me around. Yeah. Yeah, if you can find them.
So, the grave rob. So that was getting the university by for a while. But all of the grave robbing, people were like, "Hey, stop stealing our relatives' bodies and stuff."
Yeah,
and so
please.
So that led to preventative measures. There's things called a mort safe, which is a cage people would put over the grave to prevent grave robbers from getting in.
Wow.
So this led to all of these preventative measures, them fixing it, led to a pretty desperate demand among academics and medical schools for fucking dead bodies to look at.
Right.
I do have in my notes here, Eric, do you think we could have gotten into the grave robbing game, or would we have been too scared?
I think we would have tried. We would have tried and rapidly aborted, I think. One tendril of mist rolls across the ground at midnight. We're out.
We're
I'm
out.
done.
And then we have to ask Jenna to do it for
Not
us,
worth
please.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
It was spooky.
It was
Yeah.
spooky. Jenna, please
Very
help.
spooky.
Please help us get a body.
Nah.
Fuck.
Nah. Seems like a lot of trouble. I'll just hook.
So enter William Hare. William owns a lodging house in Edinburgh. And as we approach the good parts of this story, as one of our two main characters enters the stage, I want to mention that while this really happened, it's so dark and strange and like kind of darkly funny that it's of course like captured people's imaginations and been told and retold and fictionalized and theorized about so much that it's kind of impossible to fully sort out what's 100% verifiably the truth and what's sort of apocryphal, what's been kind of added to it. I approached my script here trying to distill down what happened while also acknowledging like the drama and dark comedy like that the story's just dripping with and kind of begging for. Hopefully I've struck an okay balance. But it's November 1872 and one of Hare's tenants, Donald, has died of dropsy. Which is,
Do we know what dropsy is?
dropsy is a gross like fluid buildup that like swells and like often shows up in the legs.
That's fun.
I saw when I very early on when I had moved to New York 5-ish years ago now, I saw a woman on the A train with what was clearly that. And
Wow.
it's still in my fucking brain.
Whoa.
It,
I mean, did you see it and you were like, oh, God, I wish I could autopsy that? 'Cause
I did not, but I would if I saw it now.
Okay. Progress.
Let me ask a question. And we might not know this, but in the grave robbing game, would you get more money for like rarer spec? Like, oh yeah, this person had dropsy. That's an interesting kind of thing.
I don't know.
Okay.
I will say fresh was certainly exciting.
Uh-huh.
A nice fresh cadaver.
Important.
Yeah.
What was that, Jenna?
Freshness is more important.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because
it's-
they're not doing autopsies for specific things. They were doing it for like, it's like a classroom thing. Like they were classroom bodies.
Sure. Yeah, that
So,
makes
I
sense.
mean, there's a learning experience there. But I think mostly they just wanted like plain old bods.
Right. It's that was so from my understanding, freshness was very exciting more than somebody with dropsy necessarily.
Got it.
And maybe the freshness will come into play into this story a little bit.
Ooh, papa.
So it's November of 1872, and one of Hare's tenants, Donald, has died. Oh, I'm just reading exactly what I've read before. Oops. So Hare's kind of pissed that this tenant has died because Donald owes him £4 in back rent. And that's a couple $100 in today's money. That's real money.
Yeah, it's no joke.
And Hare bemoans this to his pal William Burke. And the two of them come up with an idea. They stage essentially a fake burial for this guy, Donald.
This seems a little bit more like up our alley.
My understanding is they like get a coffin made. They fill it with like sticks and stones and rocks and stuff, but hide the body under his bed.
Okay.
Which is, yeah, I don't know what we're doing it for, Eric, but yes, that's exactly what. Okay.
Yeah.
Step one, we're gonna have a fake burial for this guy. I don't know what we're gonna do with the body yet, but
Keep under my bed. I got nothing under there.
So they stage this fake burial for Donald, essentially like keep up appearances. But instead of like actually burying him, they take him to Surgeon Square at the university and sell the body.
Sure.
And it's a decent chunk of change. Like I said, it's around $600 based on the rude calculator. If internet inflation calculators are anything to be believed. So one of they sell it to this guy, Dr. Robert Knox, who's going to be a major player in this story. That's the beef buyer.
Love it.
He's the boy that buys the beef.
He's the boy that buys the beef. Now, one of Knox's assistants apparently tells the pair they'd be glad to see them again if they have another body they need to get rid of.
Which, like, what a suspect thing to say.
What a thing to
Right?
say. That's just asking for it. Complicit.
Yeah, because, like, you find one liver on the street. Okay. If you have a ready supply of livers, that's not an accident. You are doing something to acquire livers.
You are a liver-getting person.
Yeah. There's not a legitimate way that you're getting multiple bodies. If you get one body, okay, maybe he died of dropsy. You know, if you get multiple, then that's us.
You got a lot of people in your flop house getting dropsy. It happens all the time, Jenna.
No, I disagree. Only if you have one of the many murder houses from this era of serial killers.
Yeah, too many. I'm going to throw this out there, 1800 Scotland. Too many murder houses.
So many murder houses. It was so
Fewer murder
popular.
houses.
Yeah. Let them come to you. These days, serial killers have to go out. They got to make their own Craigslist ads. They have to, like, go to other locations to find
They
victims.
work for it.
Yes, you used to just be able to set up a lodge, draw people in, get them super drunk, smother them, and then sell them to a man in a public market.
So that said, this is where things begin to take a turn. So we don't actually know the true order of the 16 murders that are going to happen over the next 12 months.
Oh, wow.
But historians largely assume that a man named Joseph was the first one. We don't know a lot about Joseph, including his last name. We don't know a couple of these people's last names or some of any of their names. So my guess, it's of the era. We don't really have a lot to identify these people later. We're kind of just going by confessions later in the story. So it's January or February, a couple of months after the Donald incident. And this guy Joseph is another lodger at Hare's house. And he was apparently sick with a terrible fever and had like a just terrible delirium. Probably not long for this world, especially in 1800 Scotland.
So they're kind of helping him out. He's on the ledge. They're just giving him a little nudge.
Hare and his wife are worried that like a potentially infectious tenant could be bad for business, and like
Inconsiderate.
in the COVID era, we can currently see how that's.
No, disagree.
So Hare calls Burke back up, his buddy Burke.
Oh, buddy Burke.
Yeah.
Oh, buddy Burke. Hey,
I'm frightened by how much I'm identifying with these guys.
Yeah, I was gonna say, could we get a little role play of how we think this call would go? Brian, you're
Ring,
putting in
ring.
the call to your friend.
ring ring.
Hello.
Hello. It's me, Hare.
Kill him. Kill him immediately.
Come on over, bud.
See, like Brian, like if we were kind of in a jam, and there was just a very sick man, just real sick, not in a lot of pain, not doing great, and we knew there was $600 on the other side. Oh, it's inevitable. He's not recovering, you know. For the pod, it's think of the We'll Twitch it. We'll throw it on Twitch.
It scares me how much I was with you and on board with you at just, we're kind of in a bind.
Yeah,
I'm like, you know what?
We are often in a bind all the time.
A bind of your own procurement.
Oh, absolutely,
A bind of your
100%.
own
Yeah,
fault.
hoisted by our own petard.
Truly.
Constant.
They decide to take care of it.
Sure.
Maybe, yeah, and push him off the
get it.
ledge. That he's going off anyway. Just
Metaphorically.
right.
Yeah.
That's not how they actually killed him.
Right. They're gonna speed up Mother Nature a little bit. Now, in fictionalized versions, I believe the popular portrayal is that Hare kind of ropes a hesitant Burke into it. And I don't think we'll ever know for sure if that was actually the case, but when you see how the rest of this story plays out, that is certainly the most dramatically interesting way to look at their relationship. Because shit's gonna go down. So the story goes that they get Joseph drunk on whiskey and then suffocate him with a pillow. And historian Lisa Rosner says that this was apparently an ingenious murder method at the time. Reading directly from the Wikipedia article, Burke's weight on the victim stifled movement and thus the ability to make noise, while it also prevented the chest from expanding should any air get past Hare's suffocating grip. In Rosner's opinion, the method would have been practically undetectable until the era of modern forensics. It was the perfect murder.
Thanks to Body Farm.
Thanks to Body Farm.
Body Farm.
Thank you, Body Farm.
Thank you, Body Farm.
They should have some commercials.
Hey, thank your local Body Farm.
Thanks, Body Farm. Yeah, just like children
Reach
playing.
out. Get your bodies local.
I wanted to call the Knoxville Body Farm and see if they would talk to me for like 10 minutes on the phone so that we could talk. I got too scared.
Okay.
Oh,
Sure.
wow. Okay.
This is me
Living
saying I
up
don't
to
have
the
it.
pitch of this podcast.
Can we call them now? Can we leave a voicemail?
It's
for
late.
the Knoxville? Well, we'll go to voicemail.
No, you need to save this for when you visit your brother.
Yes,
True.
they
Fair
don't
point.
give tours. And that makes sense.
Well, that tracks. Yeah, it's like a laboratory, an outdoor lab.
Eric,
Yeah.
Eric, we should probably look up recording laws, but after the show, let's call them.
Oh yeah. Let's call the Knoxville Body Farm.
Let's call the Knoxville Body Farm.
Let's also get arrested trying to get too close to the Knoxville Body Farm. How about this? We'll put a little corpse paint on me. I'll just lie down in the field.
We're untangling ourselves from a razor wire.
Yeah.
Like, are we not supposed? We not? There's no sign.
So weird. You guys left a lot of bodies out here.
Do people know about this?
Yeah, someone should take care of these bodies.
I looked over. I thought I saw a body, and I
Yeah.
was like, I should investigate that.
Yeah. It's fun. We have a podcast. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's Brian and Eric don't belong here. I presume we also don't belong here.
Of course. Anyway, rate 3 stars, please.
Working Man's 3.
Once again, at Surgeons Row, Dr. Knox paid the pair £10, which is a little more than the $600, I think. It was like around 6-7 was like $600. So this is a little more. It's a good fresh body.
Sure.
Not all full of fluid. It's not all bloated with dropsy.
I have here, he apparently was impressed with the fresh state of the cadaver and made it clear he wasn't going to be asking any questions.
I love that.
Because
I feel like that just came out of me. I don't know why I love that, but I do. I'm going to double down on it. I feel like, a supportive business partner like that is great. This actually really does map super neatly for me onto modern day, like car theft and chop shops and shit.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like you get that wink, wink,
They're considered serial killers, but they are functionally operating in a pretty standard black market. I don't think you can consider them serial killers because they are just doing like capitalism.
I would say they're closer to hitmen.
Jenna, I would say the murder part puts them in the serial killer territory,
but
not what they do after.
I think they're closer to hitmen, though. I think they're closer to hitmen because I don't think they're like getting off on it,
I don't. Yeah, there's no like psychological impulse. I think like it really is just about the fucking money, which is worse. I think
it's bad. It's pretty bad.
I get it.
Yeah. In what sense? What part of that do you get?
I'm just saying they need a little scratch.
I'm just saying, put Eric on a list.
Yeah. Oh, please. I'm unsuccessfully trying to donate my body to the Body Farm.
Yeah, they keep saying no. Please,
Yeah.
please. Your body's not a good test subject.
Yeah. Yeah. Sir, you're already decomposing.
It's so to be clear, we mentioned above, like Dr. Knox needs bodies.
Yeah.
And suddenly these guys have shown up now in a couple of months with 2 like pretty good bodies.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe it's okay to look the other way.
I just feel like
From his perspective.
Burke and Hare, maybe they finally found something they're good at.
I mean, they're not good enough at it. I don't think they're good. I mean, 16 bodies is an impressive run for murders.
Yeah,
But like they did get caught. And they did get sloppy. They did get caught.
for sure. I just mean like I picture these guys as kind of like a bumbling duo. Maybe they never really found their thing. They're finally getting some positive feedback.
Nah, they're getting just cash. And that's it.
Eric, I like your interpretation.
You know what I mean?
I think maybe you're projecting.
Wow, whoa. Absolutely.
So, a nearly identical song and dance would happen again for the presumed next victim. Once again, we don't really know the order. Historians can really only like make a guess here, kind of. So, an unnamed English lodger. He presumably had a name. We just don't know it.
Mm-hmm.
He was a traveling salesman who fell ill with jaundice. I don't know what jaundice is aside from it makes your skin yellow. I don't know what part of that is bad.
Isn't that like a liver? Isn't that a liver? Or
I think it
disease?
is. I think you're right. I think an Uber driver explained that to me once.
Did he have jaundice?
I believe he had at one point.
Jaundice may occur if the liver can't efficiently process red blood cells as they break down.
Got it. So I think what makes the story interesting is at this point Burke and Hare have been, if they felt guilty about it at all, or have been able to justify their doings with, like, they're already sick.
Sure.
They're already dying. So they're just speeding up the natural process a little. Not that it would have been right by any means, but, like, humans can justify anything to themselves, you know?
Yeah.
It's making a smaller gap for them to have to do, like, the emotional work of justifying their actions. And that's important, because I think if those three weren't there, maybe they never would have done this.
You're right. You are right. Because over the next 12 months, the supply of justifiable bodies decreases, but they still want that cheddar.
Sure.
Then you can't have beef without cheddar.
It's true. That's a true fact.
Now it's time to put a little more work into this.
Yeah, I feel like once you break the seal on it and you get away with it one time, you're like, that was fine.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Is that person in the surgeon's row should have been like, this is pretty weird. Don't bring us any more bodies unless we know where you're getting them. Like, there was a point where they could have stopped this.
Yeah, there was a whole system of
everybody
enablement.
was just, they were just like, it's fine. We don't want, we need the bodies. We don't care where they come from.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
You need
Brian.
some beef. You love beef.
Love beef.
You love beef.
I love beef.
And man, son, but you can't really get beef.
No.
They ain't got beef around the corner
It's
at the bodega.
scarce.
There's no beef. They're scarce. It's scarce. There's no beef.
It is
Not
expensive
enough
right now.
orphans
It is expensive right
dying.
now. And then some guy shows up. It's like, yo, I got some beef. Here's
Yeah.
some beef. Take some beef.
Take a little beef.
Take a little beef.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Oh, it's in the trunk of your Toyota Camry? That's so weird. It's just on dry ice. Just not even wrapped in anything. Just
You've described the circumstance of every black market that has ever existed.
yeah, it's just all out of the trunk of a Toyota Camry. Still running.
So, Burke and Hare begin taking to the streets and finding people, quote unquote, no one would miss. We get urchins, we get homeless people, we get prostitutes, and they lure them back to Hare's home, get them drunk, suffocate them, and then cart them off to Knox to buy the beef.
So fresh. So the beef's so fresh. They love that.
We love this
They
beef.
love that.
We love this beef.
Still warm. You can still move them. Rigor mortis ain't set in. It's the freshest beef yet. How'd you get this? Just kidding. I don't want to know. Here's your money.
So in fictional versions, we are in like the montage state of
Yes.
just if there's I'm sure I did not see the 2010 John Landis movie with Simon Pegg and Andy Serkis, but I assume that there is a musical montage with jaunty music as like someone comes in, they suffocate.
I did watch that movie. It was miserable. It was so bad.
Oh, really?
It was distressingly just like to see so many comedy legends doing such miserable work. Was
That's
really
the thing.
unpleasant.
It's John Landis. It was his first movie in 12 years. Simon Pegg, Andy Serkis, and like
Yeah, it's a
kinda,
stacked lineup.
and it's a wild
Yeah.
story. And like you can it certainly lends itself to a very dark comedy.
Wow.
And like
Oh yeah.
I think it's got like 33% on Rotten Tomatoes. It is the most positive reviews are it's not that bad.
I was gonna ask you when
Yeah.
we started this if any movies had been made about this. 'Cause,
Several.
Yeah,
Oh,
this
tons.
seems like a very
Yeah.
movieable.
It's incredible
story.
When I heard it for the first time, I'm like, does no one know about this? I got to write a script about it. And I was like, oh, that's just been incredibly. Yeah.
I mean, there's time. You'd have no competition. I think the last movie that was made was this one, and it's unwatchable.
Brian and Eric Don't Belong Here presents Brian and Eric as Burke and Hare.
oh my God, what if we Eric fucking Brenner, listen to me right now. What if we did like a Muppets thing?
Yeah, I've
It's
never
Burke and
liked
Hare, but
any
it's-
idea more in my life. The podcast is canceled. We're reinvesting in the Muppet
It's like
version.
Christmas Carol. It's exactly Christmas Carol, but it's Burke and Hare instead.
Yes, and it's us. It's us, and somehow we get the Muppets.
Yeah. I'm a Muppet guy now.
Okay.
I'm kind of a
Yeah.
Muppet guy now.
You're gonna have to smother some Muppets. I hope you realize.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
that's fine. You know, it is. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes the ends justify the means, Jenna. So a notable pair of victims now are and I'm quoting here, an old woman and a dumb boy, her grandson.
Do they mean can't speak dumb or like modern day? Like, it's a dumb kid.
It's probably mentally disabled.
Got it.
Yeah.
It's a dumb boy. That's directly from Burke's confession. A dumb boy.
Burke, you're
I mean,
just
he
being a
could've-
dick.
He could have just been being a jerk.
Right.
Yeah, this old broad and her dumb kid.
I don't know about that though, because so basically they killed them one by one. They took the old lady into a room, killed her, and then they did the grandson. And Burke said the look on his face when they did it, like that's one of the things that like haunted him and like he felt terrible about.
I feel like these guys were in way over their head.
That's once again why the story is so dramatically interesting. Is like it wasn't supposed to come to. It was just supposed to be. It was just take the body.
It was only a kiss. It was only a kiss.
I think greed kind of plays a part in it. It was clearly an easy
Oh,
buck, and
absolutely.
like,
Like, I don't think there's any reason to think that either of these two men would have resorted to murder if there weren't a pretty clear and super easy financial incentive to
Right.
do so.
I wonder.
Right.
I wonder how prevalent, if not this exact, but like how prevalent grave robbing was at the time, and like it must have been a little bit of like a cottage industry. No,
so the grave robbing was rising, and then the preventative measures that we
Yeah,
talked about earlier
countermeasures.
is what kind of then increased this demand.
wow.
Which probably was getting them paid even more of like, so it was even tougher to get bodies. And now we're coming with like a really great supply.
Wow. If we were alive today, there would be some just very dystopian startup.
Yeah,
You know what
right.
I mean? Like the Uber of bodies.
No, I had a dark thought, but it sounds like a bad fucking novel. Where like you could like submit your body to like put a contract of your body, and like they'd maybe give you a chunk of change, but they get your body after
Yeah,
you
it's like
die.
the reverse mortgage of your body.
Right. I'd do it,
Yeah.
man. I'd do it.
Yeah,
kind
for
of like
sure.
Repo Man vibes.
But that's the thing.
Yes.
If there was the bad sci-fi movies, they'd inevitably come for you, right?
100%.
They'd have to cash
Well,
in.
if you outlive the contract,
Yeah, that's it. It goes to a
You know
certain
what I mean?
point. Yeah.
it
And
would
like
be
you
called
get
the corpse.
and the
Yeah.
younger you go, we're just coming up with a movie right now, and it's not going to be good. But
when do the Muppets come in?
No, but the younger you agree, the more money you get.
For sure.
So like in your 20s, you're like, oh, I just got to go another
they
10
hook
years. I'll
you.
live 10 years in fucking luxury.
100%.
And then you hit 30 and you get Logan's Run.
I mean, what you're describing is the U.S. Army's recruitment strategy.
Yeah, pretty much.
Get them when they're young, before they have thought through the repercussions.
It's commentary, Jenna.
I watch it.
So we have the old woman and the quote unquote dumb boy, the grandson, and they shoved the bodies into barrels to bring to Knox.
Whoa.
And the story goes they loaded him up in a cart, and the horse wouldn't move. Horse would not bring them. Horse was a little fussy. So after they do eventually get, like, with much prodding, get to Knox, Hare apparently when they got back home shot the horse in anger.
Whoa.
He's breaking a little bit.
Sure.
Might have killed people. Hare might have killed people without the financial incentive.
But, once again, just the dramatic, like, beauty of the goddamn story of, like, no, he's breaking.
Yeah.
He's not the same man as before.
But let's talk about the Knox or Knox's assistants who sees these two idiots rolling two barrels of corpses up.
They knew what was happening.
These two root beer barrels of corpses up, landing them on their feet and saying, "We got two more for you." And they're just like, "Oh yeah, we'll take them. Wow, they smell like barrel material. That's fine."
So that's where I think this next notable one is interesting. The jig would like nearly be up like soon after that when some students at the university recognized one of the bodies.
Oh shit.
The body was of Jamie Wilson. He around the area they called him Daft Jamie. He was also mentally disabled, and he had deformed feet that gave him a very recognizable limp.
Okay.
I don't know if the students around the area were affectionate to Daft Jamie.
I was gonna say this feels like a rough time to be a Daft Jamie. Probably a lot of
like
mean names.
We a million percent would have been Deft Brian and Eric.
Oh yeah.
So some of the students are like, wait, that's the kid who like he was 18 years old. That's the kid who limps around.
Yeah.
Oh, that kid.
And so Knox allegedly insists like that's impossible. You don't know who you're making a mistake. You don't know who this is. That said, Jenna, you mentioned earlier that like these were like these autopsies were performed as like lecture things in like theaters. So like students would watch and they'd explain everything. When Knox did that autopsy on that cadaver, the head was gone, the feet were gone.
So he's in on it.
Dun, dun, dun. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he cared enough to be considered in on it, but yeah, he enabled it 100%.
Yes, it's fully a wink, like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just mean, I mean in on it in the sense that like he knew what was happening.
100%.
Yeah, I think it's probably a plausible deniability sort of thing where he's like, I don't know where they get the bodies from. It could be from anywhere.
Yeah.
They fished them out of the sea in these barrels, pre-prepared.
Yeah, Jenna, I was going to move on to the final victim, unless there's anyone you can remember that's like notable.
No.
Yeah.
No, I think that the child is a really interesting one. So like their MO was to like get everybody drunk. And I think that's a really interesting part of their story because it implies that they're like carousing and having a good time drinking with these people immediately before they smother them.
That's
and presumably, presumably the child, they didn't get drunk. And so while most of their victims were like probably so drunk, like that the point is that they were so drunk that they wouldn't fight back and they were helpless under their thrall. The kid was probably not drunk. Yeah. And they did just kill him. And it's really fucked up. Yeah. And I think that's part of why that one stuck with them more than the rest, because it's just like they just went for it.
Great point. So the final victim was a middle-aged Irish woman named Margaret Docherty. Burke lured her to the house, apparently telling her that his mother was also a Docherty, also from Ireland. So it was like, oh man, that's maybe like we're.
I feel like that could work just so easily back then. You're like, oh, you're a Shanahan? I got a cousin who's Shanahan. Come on, like we don't have IDs or any way to prove that. Come back to my house. I'll smother you with a pillow. No big deal.
might be an easier way to get money at a certain age. You're just like, oh man, is that you? I got that. You're my dad. Give me money.
You know what is funny? They could have just robbed these people so easily. Instead,
I don't think many of them had
None of these
anything.
people had money.
Right,
Yeah. All of these people were piss poor, except for the people at the university.
Were they? I thought they were just like traveling, staying at the
There
lodge.
was some when we got that was like the notable ones. There's a lot of people like we don't know anything about who were just urchins, vagrants. Yeah,
Got it.
Yeah, generally speaking, if you were taking dodgy lodging at a place where a lot of people have gone missing from,
right?
Yeah. That is a good, Jenna, that's a good question. I wonder how like notorious this place was.
Well, I don't know at the time. It's but like there are certainly some like media attention around people are going missing.
Interesting.
We'll get into some public reaction in a little bit, and I do think it's interesting. So the final victim, middle-aged Irish woman, it's like, oh man, my mom's from there. So Jenna, and like you were saying, they come back to the house, they drink, they dance. Other people were saying like they saw them like dancing together, just having a good old time. And they kill her in the tried and true method: get her drunk, smother her with a pillow. However, something would go wrong and that's the. I do wonder if like there's an element of like. I keep mentioning like there's a greed element here, which is just like if they had stopped this time before, they never would have gotten caught, No,
Ryan, you're falling into the trap because it's always one last heist, one last gig,
exactly,
one last smothering,
exactly,
and then I'm getting out of the game.
Because it was like from what I was reading in the Wikipedia and other sources, I didn't just look at Wikipedia, but like it is all like easily.
But they have everything right there.
They have everything
it's all
right
there. What are we gonna go? What are we gonna read? $10? Come on.
But like there's a couple of times where like they run through the cash. There's a brief period there where like they're not cool and they're kind of fighting, and like Hare kind of gets back at it, and Burke is like, "Wait, what?
God,
hey,
this is such a great story."
I mean, it's compelling.
It's so good.
Yeah, I don't see these guys as being like fiscally responsible.
Right.
They're really going body to body.
I don't have this in my script, but they apparently like weren't cool for a little bit. Hare was dirt broke. Burke knew it, and then Hare like was walking around town in like brand new clothes, and Burke was like, "You motherfucker, you did it again. You did it without me, didn't you?"
Oh, this is like a straight up Dumb and Dumber. This is a straight up like David Spade, Chris Farley 90s buddy comedy is what this story is.
They really do have that like two dumb bros vibe.
Yes,
that
100%.
That people love to see in movies, with the added angle of the murdering.
Yeah, it takes it just to a dark place.
I cannot believe we did not get a David Spade, Chris Farley, Burke
and Hare. Yeah, it's a cruel, in an alternate universe that happened.
Well, the great news is John Landis proved it's impossible to actually make a good comedy movie out of this.
So two other lodgers at Hare's home, they discover the body in the stables.
Okay.
Under some like hay.
Got it.
And so Burke and Hare, and it was actually, so I didn't get into it, but they Burke and Hare's wives at this point were both involved pretty heavily in collusion with them, but they've kind of gotten excised from my script for clarity.
Sure.
But so Burke and Hare and their wives like actually try to bribe these two tenants into like, hey, you didn't see shit, right? You didn't see anything. They don't go for it. They go to the police. Police come.
Follow-up question: How much would you have to be paid to turn the other way when you find a body in a stable at the lodging you're at?
How scared am I of the person? I feel like I don't think there's if I feel like I'm on even footing and I feel like I've seen something wrong, I'm probably gonna be the little like rat on it and bust you. However, am I very intimidated and like, you didn't see shit. I didn't see shit.
I'm just trying to see like what's the break even point, because if they have to pay $100 ish for every person who sees one of their crimes, and they're getting $600. Like, these are the sorts of business questions you need to be asking yourself. Like, what's your operating cost for paying people off from seeing your murders?
Right.
And I feel like they just had no concept of that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, because you're exactly right, Jenna. Like, they could have gone on a 100-body spree if they had greased the cops a little bit. You know what I mean? Gotten into sponsored a couple of
if they had really
dinners.
Invested, had a business plan.
That's right. Little marketing.
Right?
Feeling sick? Stay at Burke's.
Saved some money for blackmailing other people. Like, you've gotta be thinking about all these expenses.
Yeah, you need budgets. 100%.
Yeah.
So the police come to investigate, and all they find is blood. They don't see a body.
I feel like at that day, that's just a case closed. Like, well, we can't do anything. All we have is a lot of blood, no body. Well, gotta go home. Time to punch out.
Well, unfortunately, it doesn't stop there, and an investigation eventually does lead them to the university, where, sure enough, the reported body
I'd
is.
like to take a beat and just flag the fact that you said, unfortunately. It doesn't stop there. We have fully identified with Burke and Hare, Brian.
Uh-oh. Hey, I'm glad I decided to.
And these goddamn cops just wouldn't let it go. We had a perfectly good plan.
Sorry, Jenna, what was that?
Said I'm glad I decided to record at home instead of joining you somewhere beneath the public library where you guys are holed up.
Yeah. Why is your guys' weird dark lair filled with pillows?
We didn't mention, Jenna, we did find a magic communication cauldron, and you are appearing in vapors.
Yeah.
Here down beneath the New York Public Library.
Also, Eric, you opened this pretty early by asking if we're related, and so now I'm like, oh, you do seem like you would do that. You stopped all but short of asking me you stopped all but short but saying that your mother was also a Stoeber. And why don't
she was. Over? I'm sorry. I thought I made that clear.
You asked if we were related pretty distinctly. I'm just saying.
Jenna, you really blew our murder plan. Thanks for rubbing it in. I know you're proud of yourself and everything, but
for what it's worth, the bone broth rapport was genuine.
Well, that does help, actually.
I don't think that was in the show.
No, that's fine. Yeah, we'll let the listeners wonder what we're...
Okay, so they find the body at the university, which I'm just throwing out there, like it's the 1800s. Like, hey, that's her. No, it's not.
Yeah, exactly. Can't prove it. Okay, fine.
No, don't think so. I think you're wrong, sir. Never seen that woman before in my life.
What body? I don't even see a body.
I don't even see a body there.
That's a horse.
Can I raise a question?
Please do.
That you're not going to have an answer for.
Never do.
The police went to their stables and found blood.
Oh yeah.
From these people that they smothered.
Great question.
Not a bloody way of murdering. So what fucking blood did they find?
Yeah, I don't know if it might have been other blood, like it might have been I don't know.
It might have been legitimate blood.
I feel like they just cut themselves a lot.
We have established they are just kind of like dumb, like
just not buffoons.
Truly.
So with that, the murder spree is effectively over.
Wow.
But the media, the damn media, the mainstream media, guys, they whip up the public into a frenzy with like these half-researched reports of like half the stuff going out there is just kind of fiction.
Never fair.
So basically the public is, as like this story is getting out there, any missing person that anyone knows about is getting attributed to Burke and Hare.
Sure.
So there's a lot of motivation on the authorities at the time to get this resolved, like get a conviction, all of that. Knox, the doctor, he was found innocent of all wrongdoing, and authorities not believing like there was sort of any evidence that he knew what was going on. Bullshit. Public opinion, on the other hand, was much more definitive, and he would flee to London. He did find work again at the Brompton Cancer Hospital, but his reputation kind of never recovered from being the beef buying man.
I mean, history has proven that that's what we remember him as. Just pretty dark. But like, not unearned.
No, I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah.
So the murders themselves were difficult for the authorities to actually prove, since most of the bodies had been hacked up in medical autopsies. So they were forced to like take what they could get, and they basically were happy with having Hare confess, give him some sort of like immunity.
Oh, they flipped him on Burke,
They flipped him on Burke.
Of course. The story had to end this way.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Hare, the one who started all of this, and like normally in fiction, Burke is the reluctant one.
Sure.
They flip Hare on Burke, and so they use Hare's testimony to get Burke, and they'll just take the one.
Yeah, that's fine. What happens to Hare?
Well, so Hare left Edinburgh with police assistance.
Okay.
The public is not thrilled about this.
Sure.
So the police actually set up a decoy carriage.
Holy shit.
That's like, oh, this is the one where Hare's going out of town.
Yeah.
So angry townspeople mobbed this decoy carriage.
Whoa.
Full torches, pitchforks, and like pelted it with stones and stuff. Meanwhile, they take Hare somewhere else and like head to England.
Got it.
And we don't know what happens to him after that. There's no legitimate sightings. We never hear from him again. We do not know what happened.
I bet he's sad.
I think he's probably dead by now.
You don't know that. We don't know.
I feel pretty confident.
Yeah, there's no way to be sure.
Yeah, no,
I just mean in the moment after he flees to London.
You don't feel good about yourself.
He's killed 16 people. His best bud's in jail. He put him there.
Yeah, my guess is he doesn't care about any of that because he's, by all reports, not a good person on account of the murders and flipping on his friend. I don't think he probably didn't kill anybody else.
Probably.
Because that didn't end well for him.
Right.
Like, presumably the end of his murder spree.
I'd assume. Now, Burke, on the other hand, once again, famously, we don't know if it was the case, but famously depicted as the more reluctant of the two, got the worst of it.
Oh, boy.
I'm reading directly from the Wikipedia here. Burke was hanged on the morning of 28th of January, 1829, in front of a crowd of possibly as large as 25,000. Views from the windows and tenements overlooking the scaffold were hired at prices ranging from 5 shillings to 20 shillings. On the 1st of February, Burke's corpse was publicly dissected in the Anatomy Theater at the University of the Old College.
Dang.
I mean, right? Like, right?
Wow.
Of course.
Just chef's kiss irony.
I'm going to say tough but fair.
Yeah. I mean, is the implication of them only dissecting criminals, people who have committed suicide, and orphans. I'm going to exclude orphans from this next point, and we'll loop back to it. Like, the implication is that, like, you don't want to be autopsied because your body needs to be whole for resurrection, right? And so, like, suicides and criminals are not going to be resurrected, so it doesn't matter what happens to their bodies.
Right. I think that's...
What about orphans?
I think there's an element of... I don't know.
I think it's because nobody loves you.
Yeah.
So you don't go to heaven.
Who will you go to heaven even for?
Yeah, what's even the point up there? You got nobody.
I wonder if there's also like a baptism thing.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe like the implication is if you're orphaned, you weren't baptized and therefore you're in limbo. So
I feel like you still get baptized if you're an orphan.
Limbo was later. Limbo was later of like, well, you can't go to heaven, but you don't go to hell. You go to this other place that we just made up. Like that was later, I think.
I thought it was pre this, but I'm not really up to
I grew up Catholic and I'm going to be real. I'm talking out my ass. 1800 sounds old and I heard it was made up later.
No, I feel like there was
made up long after the fact.
Like, I feel like when my mom was a girl, they're like, yeah, your dog can go to heaven. Sure. St. Francis loved him. Come on. Come back to church.
Please.
Yeah, that's why that movie's called that.
Right. So
All dogs go to heaven.
So real fast, once on the public autopsy, police had to be called when large numbers of students gathered demanding access to the lecture, for which a limited number of tickets had been issued. A minor riot ensued. Calm was restored only after one of the university professors negotiated with the crowd that they could all pass through the theater after they were done.
Whoa.
Like you could come in a line, walk through, and look at the fucking body.
Creative solution.
Right?
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
So during the procedure, which lasted for 2 hours, the doctor who was performing the autopsy, his name was Monroe, dipped his quill in Burke's blood and wrote, "This is written in the blood of William Burke, who was hanged in Edinburgh. The blood was taken from his head."
Whoa. I feel like
Pretty
in that
meta.
time you could pay to see almost anything.
Yeah.
I think that still holds true.
True.
I don't know, man. There was some shit you could see.
Yeah, like
Well,
in a
here's
public
what the
crowd,
difference
though.
is. That's the difference, right? Is like if I'm super rich now, I could probably pretty easily pay to see somebody die.
That's
sure.
the
But, like, I
price went
couldn't-
up.
Yeah.
I couldn't pay the price of a movie theater ticket.
Right.
Yeah, it's not
to
10
go
shillings
and-
for like a bad scaffolding seat.
Also, I wouldn't want to. And that feels like a pretty important difference. That I don't, if there is a public hanging happening in like Prospect Park, Brooklyn, I would not want to go and
Here's-
see that.
Do we have the
Yeah,
same
both
thing?
of you,
You go, green light.
Okay, so here's the thing. I think a lot of, so we don't actually, this kind of like veers into true crime, which we don't normally do on this show.
Mm.
And I think I think part of the popularity of true crime right now is human beings' innate fascination with like morbidity.
Yeah.
And we did not they didn't have podcasts back then. And the only way to scratch that morbidity was like, you want to go see a guy die?
Totally.
Yeah, you're
I
stupid.
completely
Hey.
agree. I was going to make the point that I think there's a certain kind of like modern smugness that we assume
Sure.
if we lived back then, we would be so much smarter and morally superior to these people who love to watch a man just get torn apart by dogs in a ring for 2 pence an hour.
Well, let me counterpoint one of your point, Eric, your point with the thing that Brian said, which is that I don't listen to true crime podcasts or watch true crime docs because I think it's a little bit gross.
I'm with
to
you.
No, I agree. I
to do like
totally
this
agree.
exhibitionism.
I totally
I'm with
agree.
you.
But like that's the nice thing about serial killers is that the serial killers that we like venerate, kind of a weird word to use, but I think appropriate.
Yeah,
for our
I
culture.
know
Like,
what you mean.
yeah, the ones that we celebrate and that we are interested and fascinated about are mostly like old.
Right.
They're old school. They're dead probably, or like they're in the past. So it's
Mm.
not like we're not like reviving a victim's memory as a victim.
I agree.
Which is what so much modern true crime is.
I completely agree.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think we'd be good people in the past, is what I'm
I'm
saying.
sure there were. I'm sure there were people, especially of like higher class stations, who
Sure.
found it like a
Or just had like a sick seat. You know what I mean? Who had to like,
They're in their dirigible.
yeah,
They're looking down
exactly.
from
That's
above.
exactly, yeah, on their very large bicycle.
I got one of the Burke's skeleton still hangs to this day in the Anatomical Museum in Edinburgh.
See, I love that.
Oh, cool. I'd go see that. See,
I
there
would
we
go see that.
Yeah, same.
Right?
Yeah.
There is one other postscript to this story that I think is fascinating. So Holyrood Park, I'm not sure the pronunciation. It's in Edinburgh. The photos of it are stunning. It's like there's this giant like cliff face that overlooks the city. We'll put a picture in the blog. It's incredible. It definitely seems like a place to go if you're ever in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
A couple years after the murders, 2 boys are playing in the park. And they end up making a chilly, pretty macabre discovery.
Is it the
17 4-inch dolls, each in little coffins buried in the hillside.
What?
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that is a detail from that I had in my mind from like when I remember reading about this as a kid, that I was never certain was real.
Right.
I'm not even certain it's real after hearing you say that. But like that is something I remember hearing about and being like, well, that's fucked up. Is that true?
It's so here's the we will never know for sure what these 17 buried dolls in coffins were, but the most popular theory is that they were funeral effigies buried by a guilty feeling Burke.
Yeah.
And because like obviously they didn't have proper burials, and like maybe they were some way to assuage some guilt he felt while committing them. So these dolls, however, are real. Whether or not they are display at the National Museum of Scotland, and we'll put photos of those as well at the blog.
Ooh,
Fuck yeah.
baby.
Okay, I look forward to seeing those. That rules.
And that's Burke and Hare.
Wait, I've got one addition to make, which is that you messaged me on Twitter asking if I wanted to do this, and I was like, yeah, Burke and Hare, whatever, I'll Google it. That sounds fine. Because I'd forgotten entirely that this was something I was very familiar with from my youth. But I was like, after you'd messaged me in the afternoon, I was like walking home from dropping my laundry off at the laundromat, and I suddenly remembered the lullaby. Like it all came back to me. There's a Burke and Hare lullaby, and it goes up the close and down the stairs in the house with Burke and Hare. Burke's the butcher, Hare's the thief, knocks the boy who buys the beef.
Yep.
And I remembered that wholesale. I hadn't thought about that in probably 20 years. But I was just walking back and I was like, oh, actually, I know a lot about Burke and Hare, and I still remember this lullaby. It was a grim moment, but it was pretty exciting.
Yeah. So Eric, what have we learned?
I'm glad we have podcasting now.
Oh,
It doesn't seem as lucrative, I'll say that.
For sure not. But I feel like we dodged a historical bullet. Because we could have been born just in a very different time.
Oh, I agree. Jenna Stoeber, thank you so much for joining us. This was so much fun.
yeah.
Jenna,
Fizzled.
where can everybody find you on the internet?
I'm on Twitter at the Jenna. I'm on Twitch streaming video games mostly at _Jenna. And you can listen to me in Burnt Cookbook Party, an incredibly good and funny podcast that you should listen to.
Hell yeah, Jenna. Thank you again for joining us. This has been Brian and Eric Don't Belong Here. What do we have to go over? I keep forgetting. I used to have this down pat. Now I forget it. We want to thank Purple Planet and Carl Casey at White Bat Audio for the use of their music. Let's see, we're on the internet. We're at Brian and Eric Pod on Twitter. BrianandEric.show is our blog. You can get in touch with us, spookybriananderic@gmail.com. We're going to Paracon. That's July 16th and 17th. We'll be tabling both days. And I think we'll be doing a live show.
We're gonna do it. We're doing it live, baby.
And Tess Feifel is going to be joining us from Astonishing Legends.
So
she's schlepping up from DC.
She's great.
And is going to spend the whole weekend with us. It's going to be a lot of fun. I guess that's it.
I think that's it.
I think that's it.
I think we did it.
For both of us here at Brian and Eric Don't Belong Here, thank you for listening. And stay safe out there.